Because when it comes to creating a life that matches the new version of you, you're going to be tested. Life is going to ask you to prove it, that you really are going to follow through this time, that you really are going to keep showing up, even when you don't want to, even when you're exhausted or drained or the path is unclear. When you make that choice to step into who you're becoming next, there is a huge growth period that you're beginning.
I'm Bethany, and this is Life.ing. I guide women back to themselves through grounded spiritual practices and honest conversations about what it actually takes to build a life that feels like yours. This isn't another self-help podcast. It's a space for women who are tired of knowing what needs to change, but not changing it. We talk about devotion, self-trust, and what happens when you finally stop abandoning yourself. If you're in the middle season between who you were and who you're becoming, welcome home.
Hello, loves, and welcome to episode 3 of season 3 here on Life.ing. I'm so happy to be here. I have been back from my creative residency in Finland for a month now. We are at our 1 month mark, and my goodness, so much has happened. And I don't even know where to begin with all of the integration and assimilating back into my everyday life and what that's been like. If I'm being completely honest, your girl is tired. Your girl is tired. I just wanted to take a pause and share what it's like coming back after a big life change and what that looks like when you're stepping into the next version of yourself. Like you've done the work, you've done the very hard work, you've made it through to the other side, and now it's like, okay, what do I do from here? This is my message for you, that there is another side of the challenges and the obstacles and the things that we go through. Right? There is a rainbow at the end. And then also life keeps happening. And so how do we step into this new phase after we've chosen ourselves? And so for those of you who have either chosen yourself, you've taken the leap, and now you're like, okay, what the heck do I do next? Or even for those of you who are at that edge, right? You're at that threshold where you're like, I really think I'm ready to do it. I think it's time. My question for you is, when you strip everything back, when you really look at your life and you take away the house, the job, all of these things, when you take away all of your past life experiences, let's just say for a moment we leave them in the past, and all you have left is yourself and your heart and your truth. What is it that you want to experience next? If there is nothing to stop you, which there isn't, the only thing stopping you is yourself, by the way. We have outside circumstances, of course, but we can still choose. You have nothing left but yourself to look at in the mirror. What is it that you want? What do you want to experience next? Take a moment and sit with that and be honest with yourself. Maybe you want to leave your job. Maybe you're ready to end that relationship. Maybe you're ready to have a tough conversation so you can release the weight and the burden of what it is that you're carrying, right? So you can have more room for aligned connections and communities and friendships to come in. But there's something in your life right now that you're not necessarily being honest with yourself about. Something that you're holding on to that's holding you back. And as they say, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You already know something needs to change. You've been thinking about it, circling it, waiting for the right moment. But the truth is, the right moment is the one where you decide. Elixir is my 8-week intensive where we rebuild your life so choosing yourself becomes your baseline. Not just once, every day. This isn't about more insight. It's about follow through, trusting yourself and acting on it. Doors are opening soon. You can join the wait list in my show notes below. So what is that one thing that you're holding on to that's holding you back from taking that step? And for those that have taken the step, that don't know what's going to happen next, what is the one thing that you carried with you after taking the leap? Because that little nugget of fire that got you to cross that threshold is now the seed for where you're headed next. That final push, that final straw on the camel's back that pushed you to take the leap. Let that be your fuel and your fire to remind you what you just came from. Because when it comes to creating a life that matches the new version of you, you're going to be tested. Life is going to ask you to prove it, that you really are going to follow through this time, that you really are going to keep showing up, even when you don't want to, even when you're exhausted or drained or the path is unclear. When you make that choice to step into who you're becoming next, there is a huge growth period that you're beginning. That is you stepping into, so to speak, a bigger fishbowl, right? Before we were a big fish in a little pond. Now we're a little fish in a big ocean. So there are going to be new things that are asked of you. There are going to be new obstacles that come your way. There are going to be challenges that feel like you've mastered them already, that you've already overcame, that show up again. Because universe, source, God wants to make sure that you're really ready to own who you're becoming. And it's not something to be afraid of. We live in a spiral of time. You know, we're always going to be a level above what we just went through. But I think that it's there because the obstacles that we overcome in this next growth period of our lives helps us to fill in the room of our life. It helps us to take up space, to align with the vision that we have of ourselves that we've finally stepped into. So that is my message of hope for you. I know it didn't really sound like hope, but it is, because it's like, good on you. You took the leap, or you're about to. That is huge. And yes, there will be some new challenges along the way. Nothing in life is perfect, but guess what? You are so much stronger because of everything that you've already accomplished and everything that you've already went through. You have a different perspective now, because now you're coming in with, I know what I can handle. I know what I can get through. I know what I can move through, and I will move through this as well, but from a more rooted and centered and true version of myself. And when you step and lead from that space, watch what falls into your life. Watch the people that come in, watch the opportunities that drop in, watch the support that you get, watch the help that comes to you without you even asking. That's what happens when you step into an aligned version of yourself. There's a little bit of a wobble, but then you're good. You're grounded. Your feet are firmly planted into the earth. Everything around you can keep moving, but you are standing still. And that's where I feel like I am today. And that feels good. It feels more than good. It feels right. I also want to highlight that it has been officially a little over a year since I moved to Washington. My dream state, my dream home with my dream friends. And I have been so blessed and supported while I've been here. And it was the right decision. It was absolutely the right move, listening to myself. For those of you that have been listening since episode 1, when I first started this podcast, I was just secretly releasing episodes. I wasn't announcing anything because I was just getting my bearings going, figuring everything out. And I think I released my podcast publicly with my breakup episode, right? It was archive episode number 3. Oh my gosh, wait. That was episode number 3. And now we're on season 3, episode 3. Wait, that's wild. Wow. So much growth has happened since then. And I love that we're coming back full circle with this episode 3 on season 3. Yes, we've gone through a lot. It's been a roller coaster to say the least, but I feel like I am in a place right now where I'm fully aligned, where everything feels connected. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I've got my footing again. So, coming back from Finland was very unexpected with how my integration went and what it felt like to come from such a peaceful, restful, spacious place and then back into my day to day life. I think the biggest challenge that I faced was taking all of the practices and rituals that I created for myself, the process that I created for myself to show up fully within my life and my work, and then tying that back in with my real life. Because it's going to look a lot different than what you initially thought it was going to be. And it's so interesting. I actually leaned so heavily on my own offering, Echoes of Self, which is like a 4-week seasonal space where we create and tailor rituals to your everyday life so you can incorporate a practice that actually supports reality and what you experience through your day to day. And I just remember when I got back, I was like, why am I not just doing my own work? That's what it's there for. And so I used echoes on myself and I allowed myself to play and be curious and to play with different times of incorporating my rituals and my different practices. And I finally, by I would say week 3, got it locked in, going through my own process, which was actually pretty spot on, which I love that for me and for all of you. But going through my own process and having everything settle down the way it is now, it just feels so much better. But yeah, when I initially got here, I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I doing here? How do I continue to show up for myself now? Because now I have my work back at the studio. I have weekly online meditation classes. I have my private client sessions. I have Elixir coming up in May. I have all of these things that I have to prep and build and plan for when I just spent 5 weeks focusing on me. And that wobble, the wobble was wobbling. It was not an easy time. I found myself falling back into really bad sleeping habits, going back to bed late, waking up at 5 a.m., and trying to fit in all of the things that I wanted to do within a time frame that just didn't make sense. And so as I started playing around and getting curious with that, I just came to realize that every day is going to look different. And that's okay. Every day is going to look different, but as long as I incorporate at least the practices that I know are going to keep me sane, which is my silent meditation, my energetic hygiene, so my own personal healing meditations and grounding and clearing my energy. As long as I have those, all the rest is just a bonus. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've taken from this experience outside of the healing that I did, that I shared about in episode 1 of this season, and all of the realizations that I had with how I was navigating relationship dynamics and caring for myself. But outside of that, I would say the biggest thing that I took away from this is how important it is for me to prioritize what I need before my work, because that was an unhealthy space for me to be in. Life is so much bigger than our passions and our purpose. We have to continue to live and to be present and to experience our relationships and friendships and being out in nature and just the little things that make life life. So I've definitely come back with an appreciation for presence. And that feels really grounding. Even with my podcast and showing up today, it didn't come from a place of like, I need to get this done. I got to do this. This episode actually releases in 2 days, by the way, because I wanted to be in a space where I felt ready to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. I love recording these in the moment. I'm definitely not one to like script or plan what the episode's going to be about. And so I think being able to share my experiences in real time is where the magic is at. And you know, we can move through this process of life together. So as I've come out of this wobble, this wibbly wobble that I've been in, and I feel like I've got a good system going for myself again, I found myself sitting here this morning and just thinking, okay, what does this new version of me want to experience next? What does this actually look like within my work and within my business and within my life? Because before, I was so outwardly focused on everyone else but myself, because that's where I felt like I needed to be, right, in service to others. And that's where I felt the most fulfilled. But stepping away and directing the attention back on myself in a different way than just living through my purpose, I've come to see that there's a pocket of Bethany that needs to show up for my work and for the things I love to do. And there's a pocket Bethany that needs to show up for everything else. And so when I think about the version that I'm stepping into, I feel myself wanting to share the parts of my experience and my life that leads others in a way to find the answers for themselves. Because I remember during the residency, we would have these potluck dinners on Monday evenings. And on one of the last potluck dinners, one of the women who was there with me, she was just sitting next to me and listening as I was hammering all of these questions into my residency mates. Like, okay, well, how are you going to integrate this back into your everyday life? What did you learn from this experience? What are you taking with you? What are you leaving behind? Like, I was just being Bethany. But I just remember she stops and she looks at me and she goes, you know, what I've realized is that you're not the answer. You're the question. And I just had to sit with that for a minute because I was like, first of all, what is she talking about? I have no idea what that means. But then when I talked with my residency mate, Marina, who's coming on the show later this season, love her so much. She's an absolute golden treasure. I was talking with Marina after, and she was like, no, that makes complete sense. The way that you show up within your work, you're not there to just tell people what to do. You lead and guide people in a way where they figure it out for themselves. But you just hold the space and you create the structure for them to have the room to hear themselves and to find out what it is that they want. And when she said it like that, I was like, that makes so much sense. Because I don't know how many times I've shared, whether on my website or through my social media, like, I am not here to do the work for you. Like, we do the work together. We dive deep and we dig in, but we're doing the work together. Because at the end of the day, I want you to have authority over your life. I want you to take the power back and have seniority over your life choices and your decisions, because your life is not mine, right? Your life is not my responsibility. Your life is your responsibility. But sometimes we just need someone to guide us along our path, to walk with us, to help us stay on that track and to ensure that we're discerning and that we're choosing from the self, from our higher self, from our intuition, and allowing that path to unfold as it's meant to, with a guide along the way. And so as I'm stepping into this new version of myself and realizing that what's really needed of me is to lead with what I do behind the scenes with my clients, there's different things that I understand now that I need to share. And I feel like sharing my life experiences and my realizations is a piece of it. But also, I have been doing this work since 2016. This isn't a new path for me at this point. This is a decade of me working on myself, healing myself, finding myself within my first 5 years of this work. And then choosing to start a business from it because I realized how much it helped and changed me and helped my life. And it's so funny. I had a session recently with a longtime client, and at the end of our session, she goes, Bethany, I'm going to need you to update your booking page for your private sessions, because what you actually offer in your sessions, it has nothing to do with the way that you describe them. And I was like, okay. She's like, no, Bethany, literally on your site, it just says like an energy healing intuitive session, you'll receive guidance. But you use astrology, you read our natal charts, you talk about the transits, you pull oracle cards, you provide clear and concise and direct guidance. And your session is so much more than just an energy healing session. And I would never know that just by looking at your page, that you do all of this every single time. And I'm like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I have a habit and tendency to minimize what it is that I'm doing within my work. And it's something that's come up multiple times, even with the women in Elixir. By the end of Elixir, they're like, I had no idea that this is what I was signing up for. Like, this is so much more than what you sold. And in my mind, I'm just like, well, yeah, duh. Like, what do you mean? We're rebuilding your life. Of course, there's so much that we're going to be doing. And I also like to leave it a little bit of a surprise, but now I'm just understanding, no, actually, you should probably be sharing all of the things that you do, because it's so much more than what you're sharing and what you're showing. So this next version of myself is definitely a woman who leads with her experience and with her authority and with the receipts. I'm just done hiding. I'm done hiding behind my work. I'm done hiding in my life, right? And that feels so refreshing and exciting and terrifying. So, I was just thinking, we have a guest coming on the pod next week, and you guys are going to absolutely love and adore this conversation. We had so much fun talking, but we were just talking about astrology and moving into all these different phases and seasons of our lives and what that means within every step of our journey and what that looks like within our life path. And I feel like it's so fitting with the time that I'm in, with what I'm moving and experiencing, and especially with what we're moving through as a collective, to have this information and to gather this knowledge of how we can really tap into the energies that we're in right now, so we can show up for the things that we want for ourselves without holding back. Listen, we're not playing small here anymore. We do the work. We keep moving. I love having these little check-in moments with you in between the guest episodes. And I just can't believe I've been here for a month already. Like, where did the time go? But I'm happy to be home. It feels so good to be in my space and my energy. I've been getting out in these streets, y'all. Let me tell you, your girl is back and better than ever. So I'm so excited for you to enjoy next week's episode with our special guest. And in the meantime, be sure to like, follow, subscribe to Life Be Lifing. DM me on IG. I'm always up there sharing all of the happenings that I'm going through. And I just can't wait to catch you in the next episode.